Tom.
What's up, Matt? We're doing it today, huh? We're hopping in mid-conversation.
We're just hopping in, yeah. And so here's what my answer to your question, which was, this idea about like taking courses in AI or just hiring somebody who knows how to do it, right? I would love nothing more than to learn how to do it, because that's my background. That's where I came from. Like every part of me wants to do that. However, the business owner and strategist in me is like, that is the most insane use of your resources that you could possibly.
It is totally inefficient.
Like, it's wildly inefficient.
You will be behind the 8 ball forever.
Right. So I am now sort of sourcing. There's 2 projects that I have that I think are instantly sellable as a product. And if we leverage AI, they will be very inexpensive. So like it's basically a very useful service that we could charge like a very cheap fee on and just get a ton of people to use. You know what I mean? And like, I'm just super excited about but here's the thing. And I actually got into this whole conversation with somebody about the Writers Guild strike.
Oh yeah.
I think we talked about that.
We did talk about that last time.
But the conversation, and it was brought up by them for something unrelated to this at all. But, they said a very similar thing to what you and I were saying, is that, doing any kind of endeavor like this is eventually going to be gig work, right? Like it's not going to be.
You're not making a career at any of this.
And by extension, you're probably, if we go real far, let's push 20 years in the future, you're probably not, there's probably whole sections of the population that aren't good at any one thing.
Yeah.
They're just brokers of data, right? Like they're just like, okay, I'm going to trade how to do this for how to do that. And there'll be businesses just bartering the exchange of data, right? And
I'm interested in that, because I think what's going to happen is we're going to have 1 or 2 super AIs that are just doing everything, and then we're not involved at all, unfortunately.
Well, I think that could be like
us.
I think that could be like a 100-year plan, right? Like, or a 50-year plan.
I think it's going to be so much quicker than we think.
And here's why I think that you're not wrong. It's inevitable, right? I think that becomes that has become inevitable. But I think on the other side, look what just happened, right? We had AI on the airwaves for scant a year.
Not even yet. Yeah.
And actually, I scratch that. Take that back. This writer shit started the month ChatGPT came out.
Yeah. What was that? What was that? February?
January.
Okay.
It was in full bore by February for sure.
Yeah.
So even if I'm off by a little bit, it was right around there. I thought it was January, but it's one of those months. It's early on.
Yeah.
Not coincidentally, that is also the sort of public awakening to ChatGPT.
And I still think we were early at that January. I was talking about it like last night. My wife was like touching up her bio for her website. And she goes, "Can you tell me how this sounds?" I go, "Yeah, it sounds fine. Why don't you pull up Google's Bard?
Yeah.
And ask it to rewrite it for you."
Sure.
And she goes, "What do you mean? What's Google?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is an AI, and I actually like its writing better than ChatGPT."
Okay.
And I said, just cut and paste it and say, "Hey, can you please rewrite this to be, to highlight my skills better," or whatever phrasing I said. And it came back and it formatted it and it sounded amazing. And she goes, "Yeah, but it's got like bullet points now, and I don't want it to look like a resume. I want it to be like a bio." I'm like, "Well, tell it."
Yeah.
I was like, just tell it. Well, how does it, this works for everything? I'm like, "Look, if you want, we can write a book right now."
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, "You want to write a book on something? Let's do it."
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, but you're right. You're totally right. Like at what point, look, and that's the part I don't want to rehash all of last week, but basically,
it seems like we're on this hamster wheel, man.
No, but here's what it actually ties into what I wanted to talk about tonight.
Right.
The article you sent up actually about Mimetics.
Mice?
Yeah. We gotta pull that apart.
You
But
know what? And I've got an interesting take on it. So yeah,
yeah,
let's get into that one.
Yeah. So, but hold on real quick. Let's
Yeah,
cap
you
this
got
off.
it, man. We're fine.
The problem that I see is that we are instantaneously pushing back on this. My point with that timeline was that thing was barely out of the birth canal when we had somebody with a sledgehammer chasing it around, right? Like, so this tells you, and look, a bunch of people I think we might have talked about the Bitcoin thing, but a bunch of people ran out and thought Bitcoin was going to topple world economies and it was going to be this and that and the other. And everybody, you know, and
now my $1,000 is worth 200.
Right. And that's exactly my point, right? Like, so that didn't exactly do what we thought either. And now look, I'm not saying that AI doesn't have significant possibility.
Yeah.
It's clearly disruptive, but my point is like the human condition is going to push back on that level of somebody else at the yoke. Like that is not going to be like we'll just roll over and accept this. Like people viscerally responded to this.
I mean, you know, it's so funny. I had somebody today and he's an older guy and he was like, oh my God, this AI is going to destroy everything. And I'm like going, yeah, it's going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Let it destroy everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's not even a nihilistic kind of thing. It's like, let every system we don't need anymore go away.
Well, and then that's actually like a perfect tee up to this mouse thing that we want to talk about. So here's real 2 seconds to lay basically we've been talking about exercise mimetics for a long time.
For a long time, right? Yeah.
And it's a fascinating class of compounds because what it does is it literally tricks your body into thinking you're doing exercise, right? It gives you the hormonal, the skeletal, the muscular responses that you actually get produced by doing exercise. Am I in the ballpark on this?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that is kind of a fucked up thought, right? Like, I mean, it's actually, there's nothing, let's put it this way. I can think of nothing more genuinely human than trying to find a drug to take rather than do exercise.
You know, but this is the funny thing when this is a take, and we'll get into it because I sent you more of like a user friendly version where they're like, hey, you're gonna lose fat and gain, you know, muscle mass if you take this drug. And that was what was gleaned from this article that was done on rats. So I pulled up one article on it, and it's got terms in there that like you would have to be a specialist in certain metabolic pathways at a PhD level to understand what the fuck they're talking about.
Right.
And certainly this is a rat study, and people are like, yeah, this is going to make you lose weight. You're going to be young. You're going to look healthy. And when you read the article at the end, it's kind of like we're hoping that one day,
well, sure,
we can keep muscle mass on people that are deteriorating. Right? They're hoping to like offset some of the advanced effects of aging, and it's like, yeah, that's a big leap to say that you're gonna, you know, take this exercise mimetic and get jacked. You know.
Well, you don't know, right? I mean, I guess, you know, poison is in the dosage, right? So like what maybe taking it at 5 milligrams, you know, reverses signs of aging, but taking it at 55 milligrams, you know, basically puts you in the gym for 9 hours straight, right? You know, like, I mean, we know what happens when you spend 9 hours in the gym. Arnold Schwarzenegger happens like that.
Yeah, that's very true. But that's also...
we know how that
average human being, you know.
No, I get it, but I mean, I think if anybody were in the gym for, you know, 8 hours a day, you're gonna obviously get bigger.
Or you're gonna put on some muscle, yeah.
Right. So hold on. Where's your head at with this one then? Like, are you on team mimetic, or are you
look, we do sauna because that's a cardiovascular mimetic, right? That's like cardiovascular exercise. Right. That's one of its big like feathers in its cap. So is this something that's going to make it easier for people to be healthy? And we also don't know any long-term effects of this. right? That's another thing, right? With certain compounds, and the article that I read before I tried to look it up as the, the peer-reviewed research was like, I don't know what category this compound is in. Certainly it may have some not so inert effects besides adding muscle mass.
Right.
Right. And yeah, it might be a dosage type thing, but like, there's the other thing. If it's not studied properly and we start injecting it because we saw one good rat study, people are going to get messed up,
No, I don't disagree with you, but I mean, I guess I got a bunch of problems with this, right? Like one is, I hope to God at some point in human history, there was an invention that was so grandiose that somebody said, I'm just going to destroy this idea.
I'm going to smash it because it's going to destroy humanity.
It's going to destroy the world, right? Like I have to hope and believe that that's happened at least one time.
Come on, man. We fucking dropped the atom bomb just to fucking do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
no.
Like, come on,
Yeah.
We could, like, even with cloning, remember, like, everyone's like, oh my God, it's amoral. We're playing God. Da-da. And then like, you fucking idiots, get as religious as you want. People are going to be doing this. Like you can't control every country in the world.
No. It's not even about that though. I think it's about like putting something like this out there is going to make $1 billion. Like it's completely
1,000%. And
yeah,
it's
like
just going to be like Ozempic, right? It's not going to be just for people with diabetes. It's not going to be for old people wasting away. It's going to be like, so this means I don't have to go to the gym.
Correct. And here's
1,000%.
And here's where my brain starts to really short circuit on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what people are going to do because that makes total fucking sense, doesn't it?
Because like low hanging fruit, it's easy. Like, right, even when they're like, look, steroids shrink your testicles, everyone's like, no, I'll take the steroids. Yeah, it's like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, no, I'm all in on it. But I'm going to be
the same size. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's crazy town, right? But like, that's going to happen. And here's the thing. We talked tonight about, with my daughter on the way to soccer, we were talking about phones and people like on them more or not. And I was like, the problem with you guys isn't the fact that you're on your phone. It's the fact that because you're on your phone, you're not learning a skill of how to be by yourself, how to be alone with your thoughts
in person,
and how to interact with people in person, right? Like your phone usage in and of itself is not bad. But what I rally against is the fact that your phone usage is handicapping you. You know what I mean? Like it's not, it's handicapping you in your development. And that is because of a cascade of things. But the biggest thing on that is that you don't have to learn it. You're not in a position ever where it's important.
Yeah.
So if you get to do that same thing and outsource exercise to a pill or an injectable or whatever, then how much other shit do you not get to learn? Proprioception. It's huge to survival, right? Like it's like
balance.
Yeah, like
all of those things.
Let's talk about all of the age longevity tests. Almost exclusively point back to some form of balance, grip strength.
It comes down to don't break your fucking hip.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Because they're like, hey, grip strength. You're like, why? Are you going to squeeze somebody to death? No, you're going to arrest a fall when you slip down a staircase, and that is going to save you from fucking breaking your hip.
Yeah.
Right? And like all of those things, like I know a little bit because I do yoga. I know a little bit because I rock climb. I know a little bit because I do jujitsu. And I'm an extreme case of somebody who plays with balance a lot.
Yeah.
But guess what? Everybody does better when you know where your left hand is and your right hand is differently from your feet. And, like
where you are in space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the other issue is like, you're not getting the cardiovascular effect with that, right?
Well, I mean,
it may make your heart
get
stronger,
in sauna. Yeah. Get in sauna.
Yeah.
Pop a fucking dose of this shit and get in the sauna for 20 minutes. You're stacking up.
Yes.
You're
jacked.
No, you do like a mimetic stack, right? Like you do,
Why
okay, I'm
not?
going to sit in the sauna and I'm going to sit in the,
Why
I'm
wouldn't
going to
you?
do the mimetic pill. I'll do the mimetic sauna for the heart and get out 25, 30 minutes later. I'm fucking right as rain.
Yeah. You know, and part of me, I'm kind of torn because if it was proven to be safe, I kind of would want to try it. You
I
know,
would, of course, try it. But,
I would try it, and then I'd be like, but I do like going to the gym. I do like hanging out with people and bitching about lifting something heavy, and but is it going to add years to my age? Do I have a longer life? Am I healthier? I don't know if that's going to add to the final. Like, this was a couple of rat studies.
yeah, no, but I mean, I think I guess the bigger overarching picture here is, yeah, this one's kind of wherever it's at, right? Looks like it's, still warming up in the parking lot of the race.
We've got quite a bit of time before this is ready to play.
Right. But my point is that door's been knocked on, right? That bell's been rung. Like, people are on the trail. It's not, you're not going back from that. So fast forward, right? This is a thing. Sinclair's aging vaccine is a thing, right? And we've got an AI.
And I hate saying this about Sinclair's aging vaccine. I know it's being worked on. I've seen the articles. I almost feel like it's like this lab on a chip claim.
Listen, it probably is.
It's not impossible, but we're not as close as people think. And certainly, I'm not saying he's completely fabricating it like lab on a chip, but I do think a vaccine is probably the wrong thing to call it.
Again, look through the clouds on this one. Like, it doesn't matter what it is or who's doing it. My point is like,
we will get there eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just focus on the most important part, that all these things in a not so distant future all exist at the same time.
And quite feasibly, quite conceivably in our timeline.
Yeah, correct. So here's the problem that I want to riddle is what happens to you and I. I mean, look, every two people get a podcast at that point because there ain't shit else to do. It's a lot of podcasts. Everyone's making podcasts. No one's listening to them, right?
I think we were making a podcast when everyone was making a podcast. We're like, hey, what do you want to do? You want to hop on the internet? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Seems awesome.
Oh man, sourdough bread? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hey, we did poker online. One time we had like 20 guys in a virtual poker room.
You know what I gotta say? That's awesome. One of the saddest things I've done is a virtual happy hour. I did a bunch.
I've done 100 of those.
I'm literally just drinking in front of my computer.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sad.
Virtual happy hours did those several times.
Yeah. Yep. What are you drinking? I don't know. Whatever was in the store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, what do you, we just make this shit up as we go along though, Yeah. And that's what we'll do with this too, right? Like we'll make this shit up when we go along. I just, look, not to sound like the old guy bitching about the good old days, but like there is something always very human to be banged around in the dirt, spit in your hand and wipe it off. And like, I'm
wondering what, because like we've danced around this. Like we're primates. We're still an animal, regardless of our intellect, regardless of, we still succumb to our own natural urges. Right. And we call that like sin and all that stuff too. But like we're not as a body as capable as the things we invented. Like our technology has moved so far past us that like we're like, I don't want to say we're playing God, but we have godlike technology, and we
are of course playing God. What are you talking about?
We're still fucking primates. It's right. Like we can't figure out the basic shit. Like, should everyone have food? I don't know. Are they going to pay for it? What? Like, what? Like, we shouldn't feed people that are hungry.
Yeah.
Well, we can't
of course
that
not.
one, man. No, you want to be jacked and not do a goddamn thing?
Yeah. Well, that's that. Like I said, there's nothing more human than that. So
that is laziness. Yeah.
but like, look, it's not too hard to imagine that every bad thing we've talked about on this show comes out of the trifecta of those three things.
Well,
right?
look,
Like,
I mean, this is the argument about any drug, any like even, and I don't want to oversimplify gun control stuff, but like, yes, you're right. The gun is not the thing doing it; it's the person picking it up and aiming it, and and drugs. Like I remember Hamilton Morris saying this about like what he thought about drugs, and he was basically like, look, they're a compound, they just exist, like, and I'm paraphrasing, certainly fucking it up.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that drug is a good drug or a bad drug. It has its own side effects, it has its own lethal dose, it has its own therapeutic benefits, regardless of what somebody's doing, right? It's just a thing. But when we get involved and our emotions get involved and our biases get involved, that's where we fuck up all this, right? So we could come out and, make the drug, and just like we did with Ozempic, and I know I'm circling back to that, but that's still a very hot button topic thing. Well, I tried it. Oh, but you took it away from... No, I bought it from an illegal third-party peptide company. I didn't take it away out of any diabetic. And I also didn't see this miraculous weight loss drug. I saw like, hey, I should just go back to lifting because I got really bad heartburn.
Right.
It was like,
I started taking berberine.
Look, man, I'm telling you, I enjoy that for some of its other benefits too. It's not just the like I feel like it has some anti-inflammatory properties.
So I will tell you, I've been on it about a week now, and I do feel better, like just in a generic sense. I didn't feel bad, but I do feel better, whatever, you know what I mean?
And I feel like if anybody's being honest about a supplement or something like that, you see the Instagram ads and you're like, oh, I took this for a week and then all of a sudden this, and I'm like, no, it didn't. No,
you did. Yeah.
I'm like, you might feel a little better, but
you know what I think it is like, it took away a large part of my extraneous appetite, right? Like It didn't take away my actual appetite. Like, I still want to break fast.
Like the snacking and the like.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what it got me. I have been far more willing and able to push my IF later in the day and not feel like weird effects.
Are you taking the one I showed you?
I ended up taking the Thorn one just because I was already taking chromium picolinate.
Thorn's a really good company, and
I was already
did have a really big digestive component to it. It had
I did see that
other things.
And I saw that, and you know what? My physical just came back, and despite the fact that I do have heartburn, he's like, you don't have heartburn that's anything wrong. This is just food. You're eating something that your body doesn't like. Just stop doing that, and it's fine. And so I was like, all right, I'll just focus on that because I got a little bit of a discount by ordering both of them from Thorn because I was already getting the chromium picolinate.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll just double that subscription. And I'll be honest.
Well, and have you noticed? Because I know you were kind of trying to put this stack together to metabolism. Have you noticed anything like as a sum of all of that?
So it's only been a week, and right now the only thing I could. And my first weigh-in isn't until tomorrow, so I don't even know if the week.
Oh, you're quantifying all this shit, huh? Of course you would.
Dude, have we met?
Why have I been asking? I'm sorry.
Have we met?
I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying anymore. I'm very tired. It's been a shit week.
Yeah. So no, of course. I don't know. I'll know tomorrow what that was like.
And a lot of these supplements, right? Like, so this is berberine is supposed to be like metformin. You're supposed to see a lower A1C. So you got to,
which I already had a really low A1C on that same physical.
Great.
So
that is great. But like, you may not see much of a drop, but you got to give it like 3 months or so before you're going to see.
That's it. I wasn't in a rush. I'm going to actually schedule another identical blood draw at the 3-month mark. You know what? It's actually also made me want to drink less wine. So it's weird. I
heard there's certain psychedelics that'll do that too.
Yeah. It's funny. Psychedelics never got that got that way with me. I always am like, there's no state of mind that a good glass of wine isn't attractive to me. Like,
you know
I'm
what?
like,
I gotta tell you this, man. I think I don't know if we talked about it. That church in Detroit. I'm not gonna out them on a podcast, but I donated and they sent me a DMT vape pen, and I tried it a few weeks ago, but I've had it for like a year and a half because I've literally been like, I gotta give this shit respect. It's so crazy strong.
sure.
So, the family's out for the night. I'm like, I probably got like 4 hours by myself.
Sure.
It's not going to be longer than 20 minutes. And I hit it, right? And right before I hit it, I read a couple of articles just on like, Reddit posts, not articles. I don't want to call them super scientific, but like, what am I expected to experience? How should I do it? How am I dosing this out of a vape pen rather than smoking it out of something that looks like a crack pipe? Yeah, and I hit it and I was waiting, and then I took another hit. And then I took another hit.
Rookie mistake.
All I got nothing. Like it must have degraded so much that the actual amount in it. But while I was reading all this, like, hey, your first time, make sure you have a trip sitter. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm doing this solo. Out of nowhere, a friend texted me. And I'm like, hey, guess what? You're my trip sitter now.
That's hilarious.
And while I'm typing, I don't even know how to describe the visual, but it's like a marble magnifying glass was rolling around and things were getting bigger and smaller and bigger. And I remember there was a screensaver that was like that. And oddly, I bought the Quest 2 for Christmas for the kids a couple years ago. And I bought that app Trip, which is like a meditation app. And it gets all psychedelic in there and everything. And they had a tribute to Ram Dass. And it talks about his, like, first you start in his Harvard office. And then it gets super trippy after that. And when it started to get trippy, it was the same exact visual I saw when I was smoking the DMT.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, shit, that's it.
That's crazy.
It was so weird.
So overall, what'd you think? Did you like it? I mean,
I liked it. I was really hoping, like, let's have the breakthrough. Like, let's go hard and do it. And it over about, maybe it lasted like the residual, like, almost like a marijuana kind of feeling, kind of stuck around for about 15 minutes after. But the visual stuff was just a couple of minutes,
Interesting.
But like, maybe it's me, maybe, like I said, maybe the stuff degraded. Maybe I just didn't get that breakthrough dose, but, yeah, I definitely can't wait to try it again, but like, I might need a new cart.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's time to do that.
Well, I mean, it wasn't too expensive of a donation.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm going to give this a little bit longer, and then I'm going to probably...
Yeah, I didn't mean to side rail that there.
No, not at all. I just... No, I'm going to... But see, like, so what I'm going to do... So this was actually going somewhere, but...
I totally side railed every...
No, not at all, dude.
Everything.
But no, listen. What I was going to say is I'm going to play with this for 3 months. Then I'm going to actually tinker with the psychedelic side to dial out that wine even a little bit further. Like, I'm going to try to be a little bit more intentional about it and see what that affects. Not that I just would like to not want a glass of wine quite as much as I do.
Yeah.
It's always been a part of my life. Like, and so I'm like, look, I want to just sort of get in touch with a different side of myself for a little while. And so, but here's the thing. Why do we do all these things? Right. That's what gets me about these, exercise mimetics, right? We do these things because, like, right now, the best option is to do 3-month cycles, 6-month cycles, 1-month cycles, like literally just play with a formula, right? Okay. I did this for a month. I did that for, and then test and figure it out. And yeah, you laugh when you say I'm quantifying it, but it's like the last time I lost like I intentionally tried to lose weight, like I measured left bicep, right bicep, like torso, navel,
and, like honestly,
like
even
10 measurements.
People are dieting, right? If they're not like I'm not a fan of this method, but like basically because I don't want to do it. But like if you're not measuring your portions, you're grossly overestimating or underestimating, you know, and that's where people get like if they're trying to build. Oh, I definitely ate enough protein, and you're like, no, you had a hamburger.
Yeah, right.
Week.
Yeah, that's definitely not enough, right?
You know, and then even like, oh no, that was a cup of rice. No, that was 4 cups.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way though, too. Like when we quantify this stuff, right? Like, what are we really getting out of it, right? We're seeing progress. Like that's cool.
That's what we're trying to get. Yeah.
Right. That's what we're trying to get out of it. But just that process alone and you measuring it and getting feedback on that cycle.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, you learn how to be better at being alive, right? Like you learn better food habits, you learn better exercise habits, you learn better health hacks, whatever you want to call them, right? Like you learn all kinds of stuff that holistically brings you up. Like health, in my view, is like a rising tide, right?
Well, it's not one point that
it's not one thing. Every boat rises when you rise the tide, right? And learning this process and doing this process and keeping pedantic spreadsheets of your like weight, your left bicep circumference. It's silly, but at the end of the day, like it gives you like a DNA understanding.
I think I would get so upset. I'd be like, this one's 1/8 smaller than the other side.
Oh yeah, that happened.
How crazy! I would be like, oh fuck, I'm doing one arm benches now.
Oh man, no, you definitely can't go down that rabbit hole. I noticed right away the difference between my left and my right.
But that is some of that is just going to be like, this is my dominant side, you know.
Like, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it made sense. My right side was like 1/8 of an inch bigger than my left side. It wasn't like,
Well, it wasn't some crazy number. Like some arm wrestling guys.
No. Yeah, well, like one is like a chicken arm and the other one's like Popeye. No. Nope. That's definitely not it. So, but yeah, if I'm popping a pill as a mimetic, it takes out the understanding and it takes out the meaning of being healthy, right? Like if you don't have to earn it or even know about it to make it happen, like you don't then
see. And this is where I get weird about it, because like, and I'll pull from a tattoo story, right? I was getting a back tattoo and it's the last tattoo I've gotten. And the first 3 hours I bit through my hand. I cried twice. I'm not a tough guy. I was already in my 40s and he's like, no. You get the chest tattoo, you get the back tattoo when you're in your 20s and you're fucking dumb. He's like, now you're picking like the worst spots to tattoo because it's base of the shoulders all the way to the hips. It's across the whole back, it's across the spine, it's on the ribs. And he goes, you set about as good as anybody does. And I go, like, no, normally, like I've fallen asleep getting tattoos. He goes, no, back tattoos are different. And then another artist comes over and he goes, how many Percocets you take? And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. That's cheating. And you got to earn it. And everyone in the studio in unison screamed, that's old school bullshit at me.
That's funny.
And then I'm like, well, maybe I'll smoke a little weed next time. He's like, no. As a pothead, do not like weed is not the drug for this.
Weed is not. So Percocet's the drug?
Percocet or like something to. And then the guy, my artist that I've been working with for years and years goes, dude, I told you about the numbing cream. He's like, there's no shame. You earned it. Yeah. You've already been in my chair over a day. Right. It's like, so the next time I use the numbing cream and I'm I mean, it was amazing. He got done 3 hours in 3 hours and he goes, I did almost 6 hours with him.
Just because you weren't
just because I wasn't like, give me a second, I got to take a deep breath, or like, hey man, hold still. He didn't have to slow down for me.
Sure.
And
did it really numb you?
I was upset. I probably should have asked one of my physician friends to give me a higher lidocaine cream. But on Amazon, like 3 or 4% lidocaine will numb you for hours. And it's weird. I feel like Eddie Murphy from Raw because remember that like squishy like plastic suit he had. So I had my wife put it on me and then wrap me in Saran wrap, and then I drove to the tattoo place, and then he would peel it back, tattoo, and then you go, all right, I'm going to keep that wet in case we got to come back to it. So
Wow.
it was basically, I felt like a deli counter purchase.
That's so funny.
But and now I'm like, maybe even for a little tattoo, I'd probably use. It's like
right.
It's like I'm not getting my face tattooed anytime soon, but you bet your ass if I did. Like,
yeah. And there's something to be said about that too, right? Like, I mean, I guess how many other things do I not do? Like I don't use cash, right? I just don't ever.
I'm kind of dumbfounded that when somebody comes to my office and pays with cash, I'm like, you have cash on you?
The only time I ever use cash is if for some unimaginable circumstance where somebody pays me back in cash, which these days with Venmo and PayPal and everything, it's like there's literally no reason to ever give me money because I don't need it. I don't want it. The minute I get cash in my pocket, it's gone.
I
nothing.
Normally am like, all right, we're spending it. Why? Because the government doesn't know it exists.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Exactly. Right. And you know what? I did that because it was just simply inefficient to use cash. It made no sense whatsoever.
And
right?
It's just another thing you got to have on you.
Right. So maybe that becomes my view on exercise in 20 years. Like, hey,
look, you might still do it for the joy of doing it. People might still do it for the joy of doing it and still take the drug.
Yeah. But I'm thinking more along the lines of like, even if you have an aging vaccine, eventually you're going to expire. And so there's always a sense of inevitable end.
Mm-hmm.
So for the truly motivated, that will open up a floodgate of opportunities where they can stay healthy for decades longer than they would have.
Yeah.
And spend all of that time that person would have normally spent at the gym doing something that changes the course of human history.
This is interesting. I'm wondering if, and this is something I kind of like forgot that I was thinking about, so I'm kind of embarrassed. But one of these things that helps with that aging process is increasing bone density by lifting heavy weights, right?
Sure.
Or not even heavy weights, but doing some kind of strenuous exercise that if I'm popping a pill, I might have six-pack abs, but I might have bones like a fucking, flamingo. I might be able to be snapped in half.
Well, there could eventually be an osteo
density drug,
an osteomimetic.
Probably.
I mean, look, once that family of compounds gets released and it's working, like it's pick an organ. Like, I mean, it's like,
and while that's all happening, we're going to be able to clone every part of your body. So
sure.
even if we can't keep it young and healthy, we'll grow it a new one.
Right. We'll just and that's forever. Like that, whether he's got a vaccine or not, what he definitely has is the knowledge of how to access the hard drive at a cellular level, that whole memory, they've got that on lockdown, right? Okay, well that pretty much fixes every imaginable problem, because if you could providing you were born perfect. But I don't think we're all that far off from being able to correct, like when you're manufacturing an embryo in a petri dish anyway, why can't I just also extricate if I had to take, let's say you and your wife wanted to have a baby, you're infertile or she's got a problem or whatever, and she's got sickle cell anemia. I know she can't. God
forbid you guys try to reproduce, you're going to just have...
Yeah, right. It's going to be like a shit show.
It's just not going to happen, yeah.
So if you do it naturally, it's a shit show. If you give it to us, we'll put it together where none of that shit happens. Like that, I don't think we're terribly far out.
I think you're right about that. I do think you're right about that. I think we're getting close with that.
Right, and I guess my point is whether you have a vaccine or not, if you have a technology that can access the hard drive, I can make
whatever
you and I can have a fucking baby if we wanted to, and it can be done in a petri dish.
I don't even want to think about that, man.
Yeah, it would be a really fucked up kid for sure.
That would definitely have some issues.
But you know what I mean? Like that opens up all kinds. Like two men or two women could end up having a baby together because we can just toggle those fucking things on and off at will.
Yeah.
and make that shit happen. So like, okay, well, yeah, like the zygote doesn't know the difference. Like it's, it's not gonna.
The code is the code.
Right. So if you can,
I think we're still a little off with that because of the epigenetics of the whole thing, but it is coming.
And I guess my point being there is that like he in a way already invented the aging vaccine because he invented the way to access the hard drive, which ostensibly gives you the same outcome.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can just keep replicating healthy versions of my lungs, my liver, my gallbladder, my fucking whatever. And they could just literally like a tune up at Firestone.
It may be. And this is an interesting thing, right? We've seen some studies and I guess they're colloquially referred to as like the vampire studies where they're giving blood from younger people to older people. Kind of revitalize.
Right. I've heard. Yeah. I didn't know I didn't hear the vampire part. But
yeah, I mean that's ostensibly what they're doing, right? I'm giving you somebody else's blood to keep you young, keep you living longer. Imagine now it's your blood, and you're just you just go you go to the lab and then, hey, we got another pint for you. Let's trade this out.
Yeah, and like something like that too. You've got these diabetic like things that you wear semi-permanently on your skin, right? Or even the subcutaneous one. Imagine if you had like a little check valve and you just like plugged into a machine. It just like literally dialysis your blood
filtered everything out, took all the bad stuff, put some nude stuff in. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't know. It just look. All these things sound crazy, but like, given where we're at from a technological production standpoint, there's almost no idea too crazy that you can't spin up manufacturing for it nearly instantaneously.
Well, when we look at the whole DNA epigenetics, if we look at cellular structure, if we look at all of that as literally parts, yeah, you totally can, right? And I almost sent you this one too. They showed that like literally they had brain cells in a petri dish, and they hooked it up to something, and they literally saw it learning. They're like, that's crazy. This tissue has consciousness. And like, that's fucked up, because now somebody's going to be like, don't kill those brain cells. And it's like, they're not attached to anything.
Right.
Like, there's literally
they will never be. Right. But like that, that does, I mean.
How fucked up would that be, though, if that thing thinks it's a full human and you just.
I mean, God only knows. I mean, fuck, that is like.
Oh, shit, I just fucked myself up and we're not even high.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my God.
Well, listen, we can go on about this forever. I think just like with AI and Bitcoin, I think this is one of those things that everyone gets like real fired up about, and it's going to fucking change everything. And then like we all step off the precipice for a little while it sorts itself out. I certainly don't see this as something different than that, but I do think we need to fundamentally reinvent a lot of shit that we never thought we'd have to reinvent. Like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to live?
We talked about this before. Like, I don't think, and I think I forgot how we kind of worded it, but we kind of landed where it's like, we're going to have technology to solve the problems that come up from the technology causing problems.
Sure.
It's like, yes, it's going to eventually fix itself, and we're probably going to fuck it up along the way, but that's what we do.
And I do think that it opens up a lot of doors. I'm excited to watch it, but anyway, at any rate, what are you getting into?
Man, I just finished my hospital systems in the VA lecture on.
Right. How'd that go?
I finished and I was like, shit, I was off by about 5 minutes, and I'm like, I hope you guys like this. And immediately I got really great feedback from the doc who booked me. And he's like, we're going to be calling you a bunch. Please don't get bored of us. And then, I got into the clinic today, and University of Maryland, their med students want to come out and talk about complementary and integrative medicine. So yeah, I'm having a good lecture week.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait for that to get scheduled, man. But that's other than that, I'm trying to keep calm. What are you
got
into?
It. Lots of stuff. So I spoke with a a PR agent, a book PR agent, and I think I'm going to move the asshole book into first position on the book list, and I'm going to put a pin in the metacognition one for a minute.
I did something similar, right? I have almost like all I got to do is turn it into actual paragraphs book on stacking. And
right.
I was like,
you were telling me about that
cupping book sitting here at like 80% finished. Let's just pull the trigger on that one.
Let's just get it done. Yeah,
and
honestly,
to like check something off the list, so hopefully you get a little bit more momentum for the next thing. You know?
Yeah, and I think honestly, she actually was the one who put this in perspective for me, which I thought was refreshing. But she goes, it seems like you've never written a book, so you don't really know what that's about. And she goes, I don't think that that's going to be a cognitive leap for you to do. I think you got that part fine.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things you're going to do that you wish you would have done differently at the end of it. And she goes, like, that metacognition book is a big lift. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of interviewing. There's a lot of
this is going in the minor leagues before you get to the major leagues is what you're saying. Like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do it well, but let me work out the kinks on something that isn't trying to be my opus.
Correct. And it's funny because I use that exact word. I said, like, I feel like the metacognition book is my opus, where the asshole book is just an act, right? Like, it's one act. Like, it's like, and I think that that's actually also what I like about that idea is that I have everyone I'm going to interview for that book ready to go and have forever. They're like, hey, listen, just
give me a call.
We're going to sit down and we're going to do an hour and a half call. And I'm going to stitch together the transcript from like 10 of those, and that's the book, right? And the reason why that's going to be the book is because I've already talked to these people. They know the angle, and they're so psyched to get this into a book form that they are willing to just
drop everything and
really help out on this. So I'm like, you know what? So it basically like wouldn't be a huge thing. And I think it would be really very, very important for me to put out, because I think in the humor of its name, it is really something that anybody hiring a service professional needs to hear.
Yeah.
like, so, like in a very unfiltered kind of way. And I think it'd be super fun. And funny enough, I think it'd be a good tie into this show because, the book is called Why You're an Asshole Client, and this is called Irreverent Health. I feel like there's like
I think there's some cross pollination there. There's
so. Yeah, anywho,
that's great.
Cool, man. Well, listen, as always, great sharing a little bit of time with you. But
what the hell are we going to call this one?
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck?
We'll figure that out in post.
Figure that out later. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem these days. Is like, so many of these ideas overlap with each other. You're like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, and like, I mean, it's literally
Tom and Matt senselessly went number 212.
Somebody a study, and we're like, let's do that.
Yeah, but it's going to eventually come down to like Matt and Tom's senseless rant number 212.
When we're 300 years old and we haven't died.
Yeah, because we're on some like mimetic cocktail. Yeah, exactly.
You know what chaps my ass anyway.
Yeah,
take it easy, man.
Later.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.